So, Systematic Artifact Investigation by Tylor and Charali. This is strategy 18, and the introduction is, for researchers, careful analysis of artifacts can provide a detailed window into lifeways of the past. Using artifacts as primary source ties to the authentic work of social scientists who may use the study of material culture in their own research. Specifically, students take part in study through artifacts of the beliefs, values, ideas, attitudes, and assumptions of a particular community or society at a given time. At the center of material culture is the artifact, or an object either created by humans or modified by humans. In this chapter, students will be focusing on the information that can be obtained through careful study of material culture. Students will be observing two artifacts or replica artifacts with similar uses that come from different time periods. Using a geographic organizer, students will identify how the items are similar as well as differences between the artifacts. Data indicate that students are interested in the past generally, but may be more interested in the recent past or their parents and guardians. When taught using traditional methods, many students find that study of the past lacks relevance to their own lives, which can in turn compromise cognitive gains. This careful investigation of everyday items can lead from discussions of personal and family identity to broader discussions of cultural identity.
So some of the standards for social studies and language arts that systematic artifact investigation satisfies is for social studies. On the social studies side, it satisfies strand 1, which is culture, strand 2, which is time, continuity, and change. Strand 3 is people, places, and environments. And then on the other side, with language arts, it satisfies standard 5, which is students employ a wide range of strategies as they write and use different writing processes elements appropriately to communicate with different audiences for a variety of purposes.
So some of the materials for the activity that's provided by the book are paired objects from the past and present, data sheets to compare and contrast pens and pencils, demonstration object for a demonstration. Procedure is to introduce it, explain that it is important to understand how people used objects in the past to understand their importance now. Instruction: find an item that students are familiar with, such as a forgotten about projector. Ask students how that item might have been used and have them discuss with a partner. After that, have the students group up with 2 or 3, and for each group provide a familiar object from long ago or a modern object, such as a rotary phone and a cell phone, a metal key and a card key, a flag with 48 stars and a flag with 50 stars. And after that discussion, students can complete their comparing and contrasting data sheet.
Awesome. I think that's a great activity in that it really engages students in their cognitive abilities and has them really compare with the past and have that relate back to what they see every single day. So some grade level modifications that you should consider as teachers when doing this activity is for kindergarten through second grade, you should typically use objects that hold personal relevance. So and you can also modify the sample data sheet with a word bank and only a few similarities and differences. Providing a word bank helps students at these levels develop their language skills as well. So an example of a personal object that you could use is a toy, and you could have a toy or a model of a toy from a long time ago that the child might not find as engaging, and then have a toy that they likely see every day and that they play with every day. And then in third through fifth grade, you can only a grade level modification that you can do is to only provide historic items and let them identify what the modern object would be that goes along with it. So this allows them to tap into their own experiences, and it also gives a wider range of answers from the student. So an example of this could be giving them a rotary telephone and asking them what they use today that's like that, and see if they can figure it out and see what connections they're able to make on their own.
So some adaptations to this activity for English learners is you can use concrete objects, and this helps them with their language development and also provides some context that would help them fully understand why you're doing the activity and what they're getting out of the activity. Another way is to add a word bank to the data sheet or have it on a separate sheet of paper, and that helps them create more of a thorough narrative for their data sheet and helps them widen their vocabulary and their language use. And another one is to select objects that are familiar to different households and avoid the ones that are unfamiliar that they might not know what they are.
I think that this activity really, I like the idea of having familiar objects for the English language learners. I think that's a really awesome way to include them in such a engaging activity.
Yeah.
So some ways that you can meet special needs students with this activity is that this activity supports students with learning disabilities in terms of creating meaning from objects. So but students with limited fine motor skills, it might be important to select objects that can withstand accidentally being dropped and not be too heavy for the students. Some examples that you can use for low vision is to explore touch, like having them touch the object to explore it that way, rather than relying on sight. And for students with self-motivating difficulty, it might be really helpful to have the novelty of hands-on experience to support. So they might really benefit from having the newness of the new aspect of a hands-on, something that they can touch, in terms of making them more interested in the assignment that they are doing.
So for some literature connections, there will be different literature books that you could use for different objects that you use in the class. These should be closely linked to the objects that are selected for the activity. And a series that the book mentioned that's helpful for providing general information on daily activities and household items of the past is If You Lived series.
And some assessment suggestions that the book provides is that after this unit, the students will be able to make observations of artifacts, compare and contrast the past with present through artifact investigation, and to communicate explanations and interpretations based on analysis. And then this is the rubric that the book gives that really shows exactly what the student should be learning at different times. And it really shows what the aim of this lesson is. And this is just a very interesting way to have students be engaged in a unique and fun activity, and really encourages student learning in a very different way and really brings in hands-on learning into the classroom. And we hope that you give it some thought in your future classroom as to having systematic artifact investigation.
Thank you for watching our video. I hope you learned a lot out of it. This is a really interesting strategy and one that we hope you can use in your future classrooms.